different if you'd like to follow along. But we are doing something that is very usual for a science classroom. We're going to talk about unit conversions. Okay, this is something that you were exposed to quite a bit last year in chemistry. Remember the whole moles of grams, grams of moles, stoichiometry, that whole thing. Okay, and we're also going to talk about, by the end of the day, you'll be able to do the metric conversion system, which you've experienced that since junior high, but we're still a little rusty on that. Okay, so I am a popular fan of starting with stuff that's simple, that you could come up with the answer to really easily. I do that so that we can have a conversation about the process by which you came to the answer, more so than the answer. Okay, and does that make sense? I'm really hoping that everybody could figure this out with a calculator. Okay, I want you to describe to someone around you why you would do that mathematically. Like, how do you go from why do you do what you do to get the answer to this question? Does that make sense? Give it a shot. Just get those synapses firing here. You can come up with an answer, but why did you do, mathematically, why did you do what you did? Okay. What conversion factoid are we employing here? Like, what do we know is true about a dozen? 12. Okay. So we're going to say 1 dozen is equal to 12. We'll just say eggs, just for the sake of, okay. Doesn't have to be eggs, but we're just going to go with eggs because talking about eggs. Okay. Now, those two are equivalent, right? Okay. If I take 30 and multiply that by 1, what's the answer? 30. Yeah. Okay. If I take 30 and multiply that by 4 over 4, what's the answer? Because 4 over 4 is still 1. It's the same thing, right? Okay. If I take 30 and multiply that by 12 eggs over a dozen, what is this quantity? It's still 1. Does everybody see that? They're equivalent to each other. They're just expressed differently. Okay? Now, if I did this, would I get the right answer? No. Okay? I need to put what on the bottom? Whoa, wait. Sorry. I should have done this. In this class, you will find that units are much more valuable to write down than it have been in math class. In math class, it's simply been a bookkeeping thing, like just something that you get points taken off for. In this class, you're like, oh, there's kind of benefit to that. Okay. So if I did this, okay, based off of chemistry stuff, here's one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put it over 1. Did you do that in chemistry? And with stoichiometry, moles of grams of moles, all that jazz. Okay. I'm putting it over 1. And what am I going to put on the bottom here? Eggs or dozen? Eggs. Okay. So I have 12 eggs over 1 dozen. Okay. So mathematically, whatever you do to the number, you also do to units. So here, we're taking 30 divided by 12. We're also taking eggs divided by eggs. That's why they cancel out. Bless you. Does that make sense? Okay. So in my calculator, I'm going to go 30 divided by 12, and that's 2.5. I'm left with the only unit left, dozens. Okay. Again, you could totally figure this out. Okay. Easily without that whole conversation. Not focused on the answer. I'm focused on the process. I'm taking something you know of, and we're focusing on the process because we're going to jump into stuff that it will be more difficult than this problem, but it's the same process. Okay. All right. So we have an answer, but let's do a common sense check. Should that value, that the answer we get, should that be more or less than 30? I mean, obviously less is 2.5, okay? But before we got there, before we did any type of calculations, we should be able to, hopefully at the end of today, you should be able to have a hypothesis, or like it should be more or less than what I started, okay? I'm gonna change up the scenario so that we're not distracted by the 2.5 value, okay? If I gave you 60 inches and I said convert that to feet, is that value going to be more or less than 60? Why? That's what I want you to think right now. Why will it be? How do you know? Not just divided by 12 and I got from a, let's pretend you did not know that there was 12 inches in a foot, but you knew that an inch is smaller than a foot. Okay. Let's say I say you have 50 centimeters. How many feet is that? You don't know that one. Okay. But is that number going to be smaller or bigger than 50? Tell your neighbor why you know that. Okay. That was kind of weird, huh? You guys good? I see everybody's like someone's out there. Didn't ever try to think like that before, huh? Like, yeah, I just get an answer. That's easy. Okay, so if we start with small units and we're converting to a big unit, there's going to be less of the big units equivalent to a bunch of the small units, something like that. Okay. So I am very interested in the correct answer, but I am also very interested in the process by which you got there. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Thumbs up when you have a guess. Checking for, okay. Have a conversation. Tell them why.
Beyond big numbers. This is 3.1, like those numbers are bigger, but like that has, I guess, greater value. 3.1. There's like a lot of then you have to move the inches are more.
Okay. Give me something. Gonna be more. Why? Yep. Yeah, that's good. Satisfied? Yeah. Anybody want to throw in and to add to that? Okay. Good with that. All right. So now I do want to say, like, no one cares how many inches are in 3.1 miles. I get that. Like, I just want to. That's not really an important thing, but the process I'm trying to go about will be. Okay. So if we were trying to find couldn't use Google. Okay. What factoids do we know of that would be able to have, like, we have a calculator at our disposal? What factoids do you know that would be helpful? What conversions do we know that would be helpful? Feet to miles. Anybody know how many feet are in a mile? Yep, 5,280. Now, if you didn't know that, that's totally fine. Feel like that's something you can look up. That's something that I will give you on a test if I require you to do this problem, type of problem. Okay. What else? What other conversions would be helpful? Yep. Okay. We can throw that in there. 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. I think we're good, right? That'll take us there. All right. So, see if you can beat me. I'll give you like a 15-second head start. I'm not really important to, like, the answer. I'm not really worried about it. It's the process. Oops. How do we do? Okay. Okay. Unit wise, miles cancels, feet cancels. I'm left with inches. Okay. Is the number bigger or smaller than 3.1? Bigger. Is that what we expected? Yes. Okay. On a test, I will give you points for the fact that your answer is bigger than 3.1, regardless of that answer. Or if you say, I don't know how to do this, but I know it's going to be bigger, you will get some points. Then you will also get additional points for getting the correct bigger number. That make sense? Okay. I'm very interested in your thought process as much as I am in you getting the right numeric answer. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, let's kick it up a notch. "65 miles an hour." We all have an intuitive feel for that, right? Like we've done that. Like, oh, okay, interstate speed, conservative interstate speed. Okay. We don't deal with miles an hour in this class very much. We're more of a meters per second type folk. Okay. But if I said, hey, I want you to go 65 meters a second, you're like, okay. You're probably just thinking, that's interstate speed. I'll just make that miles an hour because I'm familiar with that. Okay. So, what factoids, what conversion factors should we know that would be helpful to make this go down? Actually, hold on. Let's do it. I'm going to try to get some. Okay, we can do that. So we've got 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes, and 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. What else? Anybody haven't heard from? Yeah. Yeah, that would be helpful. I don't know that though. Does anybody know that? Okay, I know that one. All right, so we've got miles to feet, and then 1 meter. Anybody know roughly how many feet is that going to be? Roughly 3. Okay, it's going to be 3.28. I'll give you that one as well. Okay, and that's just factoids. All right, so feel pretty good about that. All right, I'm going to set it up, but then I'm going to give you a head start. 65 miles per hour. You see how I did that and why I did what I did. It's a really helpful first step. Okay, I'm going to give you a head start. See if you can beat me. Okay, let's say that I'm going to, here's my advice. Don't do both hours and miles at the same time. Like convert one at a time. Okay, so I'm gonna attack miles first. Okay, so I'm gonna put 1 mile on bottom is equal to 5,280 feet. Okay, now if I stopped right there, what would I know you can get an answer, but what would that be, and what units would that be in? Feet per hour. Should that be a big number or a small number? Big. 65 miles an hour. How many feet are you going to travel in that? Oh, that's a lot. Has Google ever said your turn is in 800 feet? I'm like, what? 800 feet? I don't know. Okay, so you're going to get a big number. Okay, and then we're going to convert that to meters. So feet are on bottom, 3.28 feet for every 1 meter. How are we doing? If we stopped there, we'd get what unit? Meters per hour. Okay. Well, we don't want to stop there. So what am I going to stick on bottom here? Am I going to stick, I'm going for hour. I'm going to convert hours to minutes. What am I going to stick on bottom here? Yeah. What minute? Oh, what? Okay, so I want minutes down here, hours on here. Why do I want hours on top? Because your hours are down here. You want to cancel that when you multiply through. Okay. So you've got 1 hour and 60 minutes. And we're going to do the same thing here. I want minutes on top and 60 seconds below. Okay. So you can do this a couple different ways on your calculator, and I'll show you a very one popular wrong way to do that, so that you don't do that. Okay. You can say 65 times 5,280 times 1 times 1 times 1. Don't worry about that. Divided by 1, divided by 1. Don't worry about that. Divided by 3.28, divided by 60, divided by 60. That's one way you could do that. Another way you could do that is to say 65 times 5,280 divided by parentheses 3.28 times 60 times 60 in parentheses. Those are two ways you could do that. Here's a very popular wrong way to do it. 65 times 5,280 divided by 3.8 times 60 times 60 without the parentheses. Here's why that is wrong. When you enter it that way, your calculator thinks 65 times 5,280 divided by 3.28 times 60 times 60. That's how your calculator will interpret that if you don't put the parentheses around it. Okay, so either, if it's ever on bottom, just hit divided by each time, or remember to put the parentheses. Okay. Anybody have an answer to that? We got. Okay. So, here's another popular question comes up. Significant figures. You had that in chemistry, right? In this class, it's not a stressor. On average, give me 3. Okay. That just keeps us real. Do not write down your whole calculator. If you do, I will take off half a point, like on a test. Like, that's just obnoxious. And round correctly. So if you have if it was it ends with a 5, you're going to round up. Like, if you round incorrectly, you're going to lose a half a point. But just if you round correctly, give me 3 significant, we're good. Okay. So now if I say, hey, go 30 meters a second. You're like, interstate speed. That make sense? All right. How are we feeling? Give me like a thumb meter. Like where are you at? Okay. Bless you. All right. Seen this guy before, yeah? Okay. Now, I think I'm gonna change things up in terms of what is expected of you. You are going to be employed in a workforce in future years that information is at your fingertips, quite literally. Google. Answer. Okay, like just memorizing factoids is becoming a useless skill. That's a harsh statement. Not totally useless. Like you still need, it's really beneficial if you have your times tables memorized. 5 times 4, that's 20. Okay, just like, that's just basic facts, convenient. You can pull those out faster and you say, Google, what's 5 times 4? Or anything faster you can put in a calculator, okay? Hopefully, most of those things have been memorized already, okay? What's really important in the workforce that you're going into is how you can use those factoids that you can look up on Google like that. That's what's important. The application of those ideas, those facts. Can you use this chart? You can pull this chart up and you're like, hey, how do I convert this to this? Like, you'll get that. That's one of the things that will come up. You need to know how to use that. I will give you this chart on the test, but you need to know how to use it. Okay? I don't have this chart memorized. I have a lot of them just because I've used it a lot. But if you would have asked me before today, hey, what's an ADDO? I'm like, what? I don't even know what. I don't use it. I mean, it's work, man. I can look that up, and then I can see the chart. Like, oh, okay, I know. I know how to use that. Okay. So here is. Let's start with things that you are more familiar with. Okay. Show me with your fingers a centimeter. I caught a fish this big. Okay. That's a centimeter. Show me with your fingers a meter. Okay. Roughly 3 feet. Okay. Good with that? Now, if I start with, let's say, centimeters and I want to convert to meters, am I going to get a bigger or smaller value? If I start with centimeters, I say, how many meters is that? Is that going to be a bigger or smaller value? Smaller. That thought process that you just did is really important that you're going to be employing on tonight's homework. Okay? That is the common sense part, the part that I want you to like think about and like, does this answer make sense? Okay. So let's continue to roll with the whole centi thing. So, how many centimeters are in there in the meters? And we have that memorized. All right. 100. Good, good, good. Okay. So that might be in your brain already, which is totally good and fine. Okay. Here's how you use this chart. You find centi, like, oh, centimeters. Okay. This can be these suffixes, no, sorry, prefixes can be put onto any like meter, liter, second, any base unit, like gigabyte, megabyte, like computer stuff, like any of that. These prefixes can be used with anything. Okay. Right now we're working with meters, so it's equal to 1 meter. This chart says this: 1 times 10 to the negative second meter is equal to 1 centimeter. That's what this is saying. Okay, you could use this. This would be the same thing as this 1 meter over 100 centimeters. Like if we're using this in the conversion, does everybody see that that's the same thing as 1 times 10 to the negative second meter over 1 centimeter? Okay, we use scientific notation quite a bit in here. Okay. So, is that, you see how this is, how we're using it? It's saying how many of the base unit is equal to one of these units. That's what this, that's how you read this chart. Okay. But really, the better skill is to think, is that going to be bigger or smaller than what I started with? So that's going to be your safety net. That's really going to, that's the transferable skill that you're going to carry. I hope that you carry on from here the rest of your life. When you see these type of charts, like, I don't know, let's try something. It should be a smaller answer. Okay. So give that one a shot. Tell your neighbor. Tell them why. I don't care about the value. I just care about it's going to be more or less or equal to 57.
Oh, there'd be more in the leader.
Okay. Everybody have a guess? Here we go. So you've got 57 microliters. Converting that to liters, you want to end up with liters, so you know that microliters is going to be on bottom and liters is going to be on top. Most have no problem with this so far. Here's where the conundrum happens. Here's where it like, okay, micro, got it, times 10 to the negative sixth. What do I do with that? Okay, here's how this pans out. Your question is going to be, should 1 times 10 to the negative 6 go here, or should it go down here? Oops. That's going to be your question, right? Based upon your hypothesis, where should it go? Think. Don't answer out loud, just think in your brain. Should that go on top or should that go on bottom? Tell your neighbor and tell them why.
Yes.
Gets a little tougher, huh? Okay. Should you end up with a smaller or bigger number than 57? Smaller, because you started with a micro, a really small unit, and you're converting that to a bigger unit. It takes a whole lot of those to give you one of those. So your answer is going to be smaller. Mathematically, how are you going to make a smaller value? You're going to put this on top or on bottom? On top. Because it's times 10 to the negative 6th. Okay? How are we doing? Okay, that's probably the thought process you're going to go. That's going to be helpful. The reason why is because this says how many liters, 1 times 10 to the negative 6 liters, how many of the base units is equal to 1 microliter. That's how this chart reads. That's kind of the memorized thing, but this thinking, this is what you're going to take on. This is going to lead you to the right answer. Here's the 50-50 shot. Okay, do I stick on top or stick on bottom? If you use your brain, that's going to help guide that. Okay, so the answer, if you know how to do scientific notation, it's just 57 times 10 to the negative 6 liters, or 5.7 times 10 to the negative 5th liters. This is the more correct scientific notation. Okay, good with that? Scientific notation, here's a button. Okay, calculator wise, you need to have a calculator in this class. You can use a phone up until the day of the test if you need a calculator. You need something that has sine, cosine, and tangent. I don't really care what it is. Do not go to Walmart and buy a $100 calculator. Like $20 will suffice. This is my preferred one, but if you have anything that has sine, cosine, and tangent, roll with it. Okay. The EE button for Texas Instrument takes care of times 10 to the, okay. If you're typing this into the calculator, you go 5.7 EE -5 would do that. That's just an efficient way to do that. On Casios, you're looking for the EXP button. Okay. Quickly, homework. Here's how I want you to do that. I posted on Canvas the worksheet. I would just write it on a notebook piece of paper. Don't copy the question down, just write the answer. I care about the process, okay? I'll check that for what do you call that? Effort credit, like completion, okay? I care about the process more than I do about the answer, okay? Sound good? Homework's on Canvas, due tomorrow. Yep.
I'm so confused on why we don't put the 10 to the negative 6 on the bottom, because like I thought like you could cross out that UL with the 57 UL, but
The ULs go away. The ULs go away. Like you want those.
Yeah, I wanted them to go away.
Yep.
And then that's when I would take 57. And then, because I was going to originally have the 1 times 10 negative 6 at the bottom. And take 57 divided by that.
Right.
So that would be smaller. But
that you'd actually get a really big number if you
big
did
number,
that.
like decimals and stuff.
The following
Yeah.
students need to come to the attendance
So
office.
you can try it on a
Blake
calculator,
Smedley and
like
Nicholas Fisher.
do like 57 divided by you too. 1. That's the E button I was just talking about.
Oh, that one.
Okay, negative 6, and then equals.
Oh, you
It's a
did
really
that.
big number. You're like,
Oh.
oh shoot.
That's why
isn't
you
right.
times it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of that's your safety net.
Okay. And wait. And so, how did you do that button? Did you say second, then this?
Yep. You see the EE.
Yeah.
above
Did you
that.
just click the EE, or did you press second?
I
and
hit
then
I hit second first.
second first. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
And then, what was that? So, how did you get the 5.7 times 10 negative 5?
Oh, that's just scientific
Notation.
because I moved the decimal place. Decimal place was here, and I moved it 1 that way, and so that takes care of one of those.
Is that the answer you get from this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we just had to do it ourselves. Okay. All right. Thank
Cool.
you very much.
You're welcome. Great questions.